Hello everyone. Welcome to IS Super 90. I'm Kanishk Shekhar. I have been teaching for this civil services exam for the last 6 years. I'm based in New Delhi and I'm related with few institutes in New Delhi and some other cities like Lucknow. So here I am on behalf of IS Super 90 starting the NCRT series for polity. This is what subject I teach, political science and Indian polity. So let us try to understand this subject from the very basic. Now, people are from various backgrounds. They are from humanities, they are from commerce, from engineering, from science, maybe biotechnology. So we are assuming, we at IS Super 90 are assuming that you don't know anything as of now. And we'll start with the very basic and then we'll proceed to what is needed for the exam of civil services. So in this NCRT starting series, we have chosen with class 6th NCRT. Again, it might sound very juvenile to few of you that why we have chosen this class 6th NCRT. But the fact of the matter is that there are certain concepts, and I can show you in your prelims questions, which have been asked by the commission, that there are direct lines from the NCRTs, even from class 6th, 7th, and 8th books. So let us be very specific when we prepare ourselves for this exam. There is no room for complacency here. So we have to be very to the point and pick from where we need to pick. And the basic here is the class 6th NCRT. See this nice national anthem is given here. The first chapter deals with, in fact, the first unit, as you can see on your screen, it deals with diversity. And there are two chapters in this unit, diversity. So how do we see this? See, the first chapter is, of course, it's a book for class 6 students. So there are examples that would be appreciated by a class 6 student. Maybe all those activities and these examples might not be very useful to us. But let me just give you a gist of this chapter. I personally found not much theory in the first chapter, and I'll sum it up for you all. Second chapter, there are some concepts which I'll explain from the book itself. But first, let me sum this first chapter, what is given here on these pages through this beautiful cartoons and enriching examples. And the purpose of this book is to, engross a class 6 student so that he develops interest in the subject and he starts asking questions related to this. So to cut it short, I'll just sum it up for you. That diversity, we often talk about diversity. India is a very diverse country. We are proud of our unity in diversity. So what do we actually mean by diversity? Diversity actually means that there are different aspects to it. Now, what are the different aspects? Diversity means difference. I am different than what you are. You are different than the person sitting next to you. So there is cultural diversity. Now, culture is a very all-encompassing, all-pervading word. It includes a lot of things. When I say culture, it means regional diversity. It means diversity regarding language, the linguistic diversity, food habits, cuisines are different, daily what the stuffs that you wear, the clothing diversity. So how these things are shaped up? It is largely defined by the area that we live into. Like in Hyderabad, I'm told it's a warm place, a warm city, and here in Delhi it becomes very cold in the months of December and January. So here you can see on your screen, this is from Ladakh. Ladakh, you all know, many people have gone there for their bike tours and to be here for adventure tours. But suppose a person from Hyderabad who has been living in Hyderabad for good 20-25 years, born and brought up there, suddenly he or she has to shift to this Ladakh. So a trip is different from spending your rest of the life in this place. whose climate, whose topography, whose culture you are not used to. So that would demand a massive preparation on your part, because it would be a complete overhaul, right? The food would be different, the clothes would be different, the festivals would be different, the people would be different, the language spoken is different. So this is what diversity brings us to. That there are so many clusters in India, and India being such a multicultural, diverse, pluralistic country, we need to understand this diversity very well. And then they have compared Kerala with Ladakh. Now, two extreme, the northmost and the southmost. And here they have given examples, like they have quoted Saint Thomas. Saint Thomas came to Kerala in first century CE itself, the earliest of the Christians. Then they have quoted Ibn Battuta. When you read history, medieval history, you will come across Vijayanagar Empire, and you will hear this word again, Ibn Battuta. So they have quoted from the accounts given by Ibn Battuta what he saw when he came here, what Saint Thomas saw when he came here, and what did Portuguese saw when they came there in Kerala, to Kerala. So Kerala has a very composite culture. Now something similar can be said about Ladakh, because people have been coming to Ladakh, the northmost part of India, since time immemorial, right from Indo-Greeks to maybe Aryans to Indo-Greeks to Sakas to all these Hunas to Arabs. So these two places, very far away from each other, have different cultures, and these cultures are shaped by people who have been coming there from a very long time. That is what makes our culture very composite. See, nothing is existing in isolation, and all cultures are a result of people who have been living there, and these people are very different. It's not, there is no uniformity here. So this is what brings to our unity in diversity, that despite all this diversity, there is a very strong unity that binds India together. Now they have quoted this Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar, which enraged even people who were far away from Amritsar. And this diversity arose the national consciousness. So there is religious diversity, there is regional diversity, there is linguistic diversity, there is every diversity that you can think of. But still, India remains one because of this unity in diversity. And they have written here that men and women, Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslim, rich and poor, had gathered to protest against the British. Of course, our history books credit British for uniting us, and to some extent, to a large extent, this is true. So here they have just said, quoting different examples from different states of India, and how their cultures have evolved into different contexts, how the diversity factor has been added, if in Kashmir, then also in Kerala. So no state in India is untouched. Maybe some tribal areas where there has been no outside human influence, but that's an exception, an aberration. We are talking about most of the mainland here. So again, songs and symbols that emerged during the freedom struggle serve as a constant reminder of our country's rich tradition of respect for diversity. So when you hear Janaganmana, see, there is mention of places: Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravid, Uttar, Banga. So all these constitute India. Again, Jawaharlal Nehru, who coined the phrase unity in diversity to describe the country, 100% true. There is so much diversity, still we are one. So this is what they have tried to explain with beautiful examples in the first book. There is no theory or concept here in the first chapter of this book of class 6th NCERT for polity. Now, let us switch quickly to the second chapter, where you have certain concepts like diversity and discrimination. Now, here we will try to read it and see what are the factors that contribute to it. So, an example is given here. We have more than 1600 language, and that are people's mother language, and there are more than 100 dance forms. So even music is different. So there's this term that appear, prejudice. Before we read, let me explain this term to you. What is prejudice? Our preconceived notion. It means to judge other people negatively or see them as inferior. When we think that only one particular way is the best and right way to do things, we often end up not respecting others, which may prefer who may prefer to do things differently. For example, if we think English is the best language and other languages are not important, we are judging these other languages negatively. As a result, we might not respect people who speak languages other than English. This is the example given in book, beautifully trying to explain the concept of prejudice. Let me give you another example which is not there in the book. And we all have been into schools. Most of you, I think, are in colleges or maybe are passed out. So we all have had our shares with the classrooms, both in school and college. What happens there? Largely, I'm telling you my experience. Whenever there was a student who was not good in studies, the teachers used to think that largely, to large extent, they used to think that he cannot be good in any other thing. Was that not prejudice? If he or she was not good in studies, maybe he or she was very good in sports, maybe in music, maybe in some theater. Okay. But the preconceived notion, okay, the typecasting, the prejudice made people believe that because he's not good in studies, he cannot do good in any other thing. Largely observed in schools I went to. Now, the topper. Topper, what happened with topper was that teachers used to like the topper a lot, and they used to feel that he must be very good in some other activities as well, maybe in art and craft, maybe in music, maybe in sports. He might not be, he might be. That's not the question. The question is the prejudice. The pre Because of one thing, we conclude several other things. So we might not respect people who speak languages other than English because we feel the one who speaks in English is a very knowledgeable person. Content is not questioned, content is not judged, articulation is judged. Okay, so this is what we mean by prejudice. Now let us try to explore this concept more as given here in the book. We can be prejudiced about many things, people's religious beliefs. Of course, there are many prejudiced religious beliefs in India. The color of their skin, the region from they come from, the accent they speak in, the clothes they wear, etc. Of course, everything can be judged here. So our prejudices about others are so strong that we don't want to form friendship with them. Can you imagine? At times, we may even act in ways that hurt them. Very insensible of us, but we have been doing this. I'm speaking as an average Indian. It's a generalized statement, not applying particularly to anyone. Stereotypes. Again, stereotype is the same thing, typecasting. Because of prejudice, we create stereotypes. Like a person from so and so place must be doing so and so things. Okay, because you are from this state, that is why you must be like you. Like I am from Bihar, so people often tell me that you must be liking litti chokha. Damn, I hate it. But because there is a strong stereotype that people from Bihar eat litti, it's a dish there. So I must also like it. I don't like it. So here is the stereotype. All of us are familiar with gender differences. Now they have given an example of gender also. We are born as boys and girls. Many of you would say it is a given, but is there to think about? What is there to think about? So if we take the statement, they don't cry, like boys don't cry and girls really cry. Again, this is what is called stereotypes, that why not? A boy also gets hurt. If you hit a guy properly, he must break into tears if he has some feelings, right? If anyone is hurt, irrespective of the gender, he or she will cry. So here's the stereotype that boys don't cry. Boys are brave. No, boys can be coward as well. Boys can be cowards, yes, and girls can be brave as well. So as children, we start believing that boys do not cry, so that even if a boy feels like crying, he stops himself from doing so. And that will create several personality disorders in the boy. If one feels like crying, it is best to vent it out. If you hold it up, there will be severe repercussions, adverse repercussions. The psychologists agree on this. So see what this stereotyping does. Because of this stereotyping, we are hurting the personalities, right? We are compromising an individual. The individual might not be able to live to his full potential. That is why it is very important for us to understand stereotypes and address them. Now again, some nice cartoons given here to engage the kids. Now this is what the way boys are and this is the how girls are. These are statements we hear constantly and accept them without even thinking, and we start believing that each one of us must behave accordingly. Herein lies the problem. When we start believing in these statements and we start acting as per these statements, girls are soft and gentle. Not always true. Should not be always true. Varies from a girl to girl, like it can vary from a boy to boy. So when we fix people into one image, we create a stereotype. You are from a particular state, you must be enjoying this dish. You are from this gender, you must be very strong. You are from this gender, you must be soft and gentle. You are from this part of the country, you must be good at this and bad at this. Does not apply every time. So it can be done on the basis of religion, country, sex, race, or economic background. People can be branded as stingy, lazy, criminal, or dumb. So again, this is what stereotyping does. It shapes perception. It creates the discourse, a narrative. So stereotypes stop us from looking at each person as a unique individual because we already have a preconceived notion about the individual. So we might not be able to judge the person properly as per his or her skills, strengths, and weaknesses, because we already have created an image in our mind. So discrimination and inequality. Discrimination will always lead to inequality. Let us see how. Discrimination happens when people act on their prejudice or stereotypes. You believe that there is a fixed pattern. See, humans are not programmed devices, right? That you put an input and there will be a fixed output. We do not operate in binary terms. There are emotions attached. So we might react differently coming from the same place. There are like 135 crore people in India, and how foolish it would be for a person maybe from USA to think of all these 135 crore people as they would react similarly to a given situation. It cannot be true. That this applies to, that is why it was written there, it applies to countries, to religions, to caste, to genders. I might come from a particular religion, but my preferences might differ from my fellow religious followers. I am from a particular gender, but there are men who are different than me, and we need to appreciate that. Okay, I come from a particular academic background, but not everyone who studied the same subject along with me in the classroom behaved entirely exactly in the same way. So because of this preconceived notion, we tend to discriminate, and that creates inequality. So what happens is that discrimination can take place because of several reasons. And there was this example given in the previous chapter from there was this story that a guy who goes to school on a cycle, and he stops at a particular red light. This was from the first chapter which we just discussed. We did not read those lines. I'll just brief it the story. And Samir rides a bicycle and goes to school, and he stops on the red light. Now there is another Samir who walks up and he sells newspaper. Now he asks for a Hindi newspaper, and he's surprised that you look like a Angrez. This is what he says, and you are asking for Hindi newspaper. Can you read Hindi? The Samir on the cycle says, I cannot, I can't only, I can read Hindi, I can write Hindi, I can speak Hindi. Why do you think like that? Because you look like an Angrez. So the, again, stereotypes. And then one is Hindu, the other one is Muslim. One can read and write, one is going to school, the other one is selling a newspaper. Different financial background, different religious background, okay, different academic background. So there are people, but names are same. That is what is there. But there is so much diversity between these two Samir, Samir Ek and Samir Do, as they have been labeled in the last chapter. So skipping this example because it was not very much worth contemplating for us, on being discriminated again. Okay, what is the discrimination? Let us try to understand this. Some people may experience both kind of discrimination. Now, what are these both kinds of discrimination? Let us try to see this. Uh, Economic discrimination is one type, and the other discrimination can be that religious or religious discrimination. So because a Hindu would do this and a Muslim would do this, because a rich would do that and a poor would do that or would not do that. So again, based on economic background, based on religious background, we tend to form opinions which not always hold true. So at times people experience both kinds of discrimination. They are poor and they belong to groups whose culture is not valued. Tribals. Some religious groups and even particular regions are discriminated against for one or more of these reasons. So let us try to see how they are on being discriminated against. People are engaged in different kinds of work like teaching, carpentry. Of course, there are people from different professions. However, certain kind of work are valued more than other. Yes. Activities like cleaning, washing, the menial jobs, cutting hair, picking garbage are seen as tasks that are of less value, and people who do not do this work are seen as dirty or impure. Now, let me stop here. Imagine a week, 1 week, 7 days, where these people do not turn up. People who wash, people who cut hair, people who pick garbage, they boycott us, who don't do these acts. Who will feel the heat? We'll feel the heat. Our streets will lie dirty. Our homes will become dirty. So how can we say that their job is not meaningful? In fact, it's also meaningful. Every job is meaningful. So that again, when we see that activities like cleaning, washing, cutting hair, picking garbage are tasks that are of less value, and people who do this work are seen as dirty or impure. This belief is an important aspect of the caste system. In the caste system, communities, groups of people were placed in a sort of ladder where each caste was either above or below the other. Yes. See, Varna system, which you will study this in your ancient history, that it was never, hereditary. In due course of time, it became hereditary. That a carpenter's child would be a carpenter, a cobbler child would be a cobbler. That was not always the way when it was drafted. So those who placed themselves at the top of the ladder called themselves upper caste and saw themselves as superior. The groups who were placed at the bottom of the ladder were seen as unworthy and called untouchables. Now we are studying polity, and soon we will come to the Indian Constitution once we are done with class 6th and class 7th books. Class 8 and class 9 there is some mention of Constitution, and there is an entire book in your class 11th, Indian Constitution at Work, dedicated to. So Article 17 of the Indian Constitution bans untouchability. It's a criminal offense now. So but it was in practice for a long time. Sadly, it's true. Caste rules were set which did not allow the so-called untouchables to take on work other than what they were meant to do. For example, some groups were forced to pick garbage and remove dead animals from the village, but they were not allowed to enter the homes of the upper caste or take water from the village well. Now, sadly, these lines are true. They are not being practiced in current India like they were practiced some maybe 200, 300 years ago. We have improved for better and we shall improve for better. Again, it took someone like Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar to address this issue, and he himself was discriminated against. But despite all those discrimination, Dr. Ambedkar proved to be, such a giant of an intellectual. So he studied economics, he did his law, and so much, despite all those discriminations. So this is what this chapter is telling us, that what is prejudice. Prejudice is acting on a preconceived notion. You think like this and then you establish a linear pattern, thinking that everything will happen the way I have supposed to happen, the way I have assumed in my mind to happen. And how do we strive for equality? So let us try to read this. The struggle for freedom from British rule also included within it the struggle of large groups of people who not only fought against the British but also fought to be treated more equally. This you will read in modern India. Dalits, women, tribals, and peasants fought against the inequalities they experienced in their lives. Many Dalits organized themselves to gain entry into temples. See, they were not allowed to enter temple. Women demanded that they should have as much a right to education as men did. Peasants and tribals fought to release themselves from the grasp of the moneylender and the high interest that they charged. Yes. So when India became a nation, a free nation in 47, our leaders too were concerned about the different kinds of inequalities that existed. Those who wrote the Constitution of India, a document that laid out the rules by which the nation would function, were aware of the ways in which discrimination had been practiced. So they, through law, banned it. Like Article 17, it bans untouchability. And these were the gentlemen who were there in the Constituent Assembly that gave Indian Constitution. And the writers of the Constitution also said that respect for diversity was a significant element in ensuring equality. Now, what is given in these pages? Uh, before Here is the preamble of the university. See, what happened was India was a truly a unique country. India is a truly unique country. So much diversity here. People have been coming and settling to this country since time immemorial. Like first century AD, the book talks about Saint Thomas. Then in 6th century, followers of Islam came here. Then other again, Islam had so much variations. The Shia Islam differs from the Sunni Islam, and Nadir Shah also came, Babur also came, and the Sultans also came. So all of them, to some extent, added to the diversity. Now the regional diversity. Now, apart from Muslims, there are Christians, there are Sikhs, there are Jains, there are Buddhists, there are few Parsis, the Zoroastrians. So all of them have their own approach towards life, and it reflects in all walks of their life: their eating habits, their clothing, their educational preferences, their language, their festivals mostly. So when India became free, and all sort of like you have seen a bouquet where different kinds of flowers are kept. So what would be the best thing to nurture all those flowers equally? That was the job that the constitution makers took upon themselves, and they made provision for everyone so that there is no discrimination being done, so that people are not discriminated because of the diversity that we are witnessing here. So there were constitutional provisions being made, which we shall see in the subsequent chapters. And India, the government has to treat every religion equally, and India became a secular country. Now we will examine this word in great details in our subsequent sessions. For now, I would like to stop here. So there are few things that we have picked up here, like stereotype and prejudice. These are the two words that we have picked here, and I have tried to explain the meanings. So please listen to it, and we will keep meeting each other. I intend to make one chapter every day and reach out to you. I hope you understood. Any problem, do let me know. This is Kanishk Shekhar signing off for now. Bye.